Hello everyone, and this is another tutorial on the new corpse in Houdini, and we're going to use the SDF shapes node to create some buttons. So I'll just get started, like there's no point wasting time here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to create like a displacement map and a color map, and then we can use that either directly in SOPs or we can use it in Karma as a material and get a final result. Okay, so to start off, I'll just take a simple geometry and I'm going to create a grid, and let's make it like 1 by 1. And because I want the viewport to be fairly like have a decent bit of resolution to this, I'll make this around 200 by 200. Okay. Now we're eventually going to put it in as a displacement map, so you won't need this much, but because we want to see it in the viewport, it'll be easier to have like a high resolution geometry here. Okay, and then I'll give it a UV project. So yeah, let's get rid of that. Let me press D. Okay, and then press initialize. Now by default, like for some reason, it's always kind of flipped. So what you want to do is you want to take the X rotate, which is 90, and make it minus 90, and then it'll be fine. Okay, and then I can just take a null and we're going to say out geometry. So I'll do out geometry. Okay, so this is fine. Let me just get rid of the UV map. Now we can start a COP network. So the reason for making this is because I want to use this geometry within my COP network as a preview. They have inbuilt geometries as well, but it's best, like if you're going to model it on something, it's best to just see that. So I'm going to take this, come in here, and let's take a material preview. Okay, so we'll take a preview material, and it has this option for geometry. So let's plug in an SDF shape first, and then we will bring in the geometry that we want. What you do is just type in SDF and you'll find something called SDF shape. Now this is a pretty massive node. Okay, now it looks like this, but we'll convert it to something better. So you have like 3 different classes, and then you have a whole bunch of basic shapes. So you can just sort of go through them. I won't go through these because you have like basic, you have marker, so you get like a check, you get a chevron, you get, I don't know, you get like a whole bunch of stuff here. And then you have compound, which is you'll get like archway, you'll get arrows. Just remember, cops can be slightly unstable. I've gotten a couple of crashes, so just be aware of that. I think because it's like the first version, I'm pretty sure we'll get a few sort of daily builds and they'll make it more stable. But yeah, there are a few stability issues here and there. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with basic, and I'm going to change this to rectangle, and we'll adjust the size. Okay, and I will make it like rounded. So we can just do this. Now the next step you want to do is you want to turn this into from this SDF thing to like a float value. So to like a mono channel. So just type in mono and you'll get something called SDF to mono. So just plug this in. And then if you click here, you'll see this. Okay, now you can also like minimize these nodes if you don't want to see, because if it shows too many, it'll start to slow down. So you can just, see this. So here you get a bunch of other options. So firstly, you can do an ISO offset and you can sort of, increase or decrease it in size. You can also do onion skinning. So if you want to give it like an outline, so that becomes easy. And you can also smoothen it out a bit. So we can sort of like just, soften it a bit. And then, and you can also control like the intensity of it. So this is useful when we want to plug it into our displacement map or whatever, so you can sort of do those things. And you can also like up the background value, so like if you want to invert it, we can just do this. Okay, so you can do something like that. Okay, so let's plug this into our base color for now. So we have this as our material. And what I can do is I want to bring in the grid that I have. So what you want to do is just type in SOP and you'll get something called SOP import and pick up the geometry. So just pick up out geo. And if you want to bring it from a specific camera angle, then you also have an option for camera import. But in our case, we just want it from, just want to bring in the geometry. So just take this and plug it in, and there you go. So now you are previewing, based on this geometry. Okay, now if we want to just, visualize this in our viewport right now, we can just bring this in as a map into our geometry and use it for displacement or color. So just to show you how to do that, okay, what I can do is I'll make 2 of these. So I'll do an RGB. So you do mono to RGB. So this will be my color map. And then this can directly be the displacement map. Let's also like increase the size a bit. Okay, so what I can do is I'll just put in a null here. So we'll put in 2 nulls. Okay, this one will be, let's call it out button A color. And then this we will call it out button A height. And this goes in here. So I can just take this. Yeah, and this comes into the height. There you go. Okay, so you'll get this. And if you want, you can do some things like over here, I can control, how high or low it should be. Okay, but that is also affecting the color. So what I can do instead is I can put a remap here. Okay, so a remap is like a fit range. Okay, so you can take a remap here, and I wish they would have just called it fit range. It's, more easy to remember, but you can just sort of, lower this height if you want. Okay, so now let's take this and just, to sort of visualize this. Here, what I can do is let's take this mono to RGB and we can color it. So I can, like, let's say I'll just give it like a bluish color or something like that. So this is my color map. Let's give this like a gray base or something. Yeah, I don't think that's a good color. Let's keep it to orange. Yeah. And then we can just sort of squeeze this in. So this is good. So let's bring these out. Okay, so what I can do is, like, I won't make any changes here because this is going inside that. So let's branch it out. Take something called as attribute to map. Yeah, so attribute from map. Okay, and by default it brings in like a map from or a texture from your hard drive, but you can bring it in from here, right? So what you want to do is just plug this in, and you have to use like the OP syntax. So you just type in OP, and you can't do a relative. You have to do like a full thing. So do OP and then slash, and we are in OBJ geometry 1. We are in copnet 1, and we want out button color, and there you go. So you have your color map. Okay, so this is step 1, and then I want to bring in the displacement map as just an attribute value. So let's call this color map. This is just for the viewport. Okay, like if you want to use it as a texture, inside a material, it will be the same process, but we'll do it inside Karma. So I can just take another attribute from map. Let's copy paste this, Control C, Control V. This will be height. Okay, so we're getting that. Except in the export attribute, let's call it displace. And this will be a float value, and I don't want to visualize it. And then all we have to do is just, we'll have to create like a warp network. So just take a warp network. Okay, or in this case, like, because it's just going to come straight up, I can just take a wrangle node. So just take a wrangle, and I can say at p.y is equal to at displace, and let's give it a multiplier. Okay, so we'll do c edge, and let's call it multiply. Yeah, and create the value, and then if we increase it, see, there you go. So we have our, so we now have our button in place. So now whatever we're doing in here will be reflected, in the viewport. So this is like, one way of bringing it in. Let me also just make it slightly brighter. I'm going to take this material and just, so this is good. So now let's come in here back to the copnet, and now let's start, making something. So I just wanted to set that up so you know like, how to bring it back to the viewport. So now let's, so firstly I need like a hole inside this. So what I'll do is I'm going to take another one of these, like SDF to mono, and I'll make it small, and this will be, inverted like that, and I can just do a multiply. So let's take a multiply here, like before the remap, and multiply that. So you get, this as a whole in there. If we look at our final result, we should be able to see it. There you go. Except I want it slightly more rounded. So let's just take this guy and we can make it a bit more rounded like that. Now I want a button to come out from inside this. Okay, so we can actually I can try to extend it from this itself. So what I can do is I can just take this, do Control C, Control V, and this will go back to 1 like this, except what I'll do is I will use an ISO offset and just make it slightly smaller. Maybe I can, like, you know, smoothen it out a bit more, and we can take an add. So take an add here, like after the remap, and I can just plug this in. So what I'll get is this. So I can just take this and maybe I can just, you know, like squeeze it down a bit how much I want. So even if I come up here, see, so we have like a decent bit of distance between those. So maybe, like, it depends on you, like how much you want it. Maybe I can blur it out a bit more. You know, like you can do this, which will soften it out. See, so there you go. That's not bad. Okay. This is good. Okay, now let's say what I want is, like, this is fine, but I want like the button to have a different color. Okay, so what I can do is I can take the button. Let's just take it up here. I'll do like a Shift R on this, and yeah, let's keep this to 1, and we'll do a remap. Yeah, and just, you know, like lower it from there. If you want it more rounded, you can also put a blur in there. You know, like I can just take a blur node and we can even blur it. You know, so I can just take this and I can increase the blur value. See, so you can also do things like that. So you have like a lot of, you know, options to work with this. Okay, so what I can do here is this first of all has to come in from, we have to make a few changes, right? Like this is coming directly from here, but we want it to come from there. There you go. Okay. Like from where there's a hole in there. And then I have a couple of options, like let's make the background black. And now I can either, like, let's do another like mono to RGB, and I can plug this in. Sorry, I took a null. Okay, mono to RGB. And what you can do is, like, I want this to be sharper, so I can just take this and, you know, bring this in. There you go. Okay. And then let's say the button needs to be more reddish or something, so I can just take it there. Okay, that's more pink. That's fine. And I can either simply I can take an add because the background is black, so I can just take an add and plug that in. And if I come in here, see, so we get this. Okay. Or if you don't want to do this, we can take a blend. So just take a blend, and I can plug this into the second one, and then I can take the mask value. I can take this mono channel and plug that into mask, and there you go. So we can get, you know, this. So you have like two options or two different. So if you don't want to add it, because then, you know, like if you change the background or something, then this will sort of become lighter. Okay, I can also, let's put a remap in there as well, so we can make it more sharp. So I can just take this and bring that down. Yeah. So the advantage of this is that if I change colors here, you know, like if I make this gray, see, so it doesn't really affect the button color. If you've done an add, that would have affected the button color. And then let's just, you know, disconnect this and plug that in the front, because this is what is coming out. Okay, so if I come out here and I look at my button, there you go. You know, so my modeled button is like this. Maybe this needs to blur out a bit more. Yeah, let's just take this. I want to blur this out. Yeah, okay, I think this is good. Okay, now let's say what I want to do as a final thing is I would like some, I'd like a shape on top of it, like maybe like an arrow or whatever, right? So I can take another, you know, SDF to mono, and let's keep this to, yeah, let's do marker, and we can pick up chevron. Okay, so chevron looks nice. I'll rotate it, or let's do one thing. Let's keep to basic and we'll pick up a triangle. Yeah, okay. And I'm going to make it small. So do uniform scale and make it small. And this is fine. Okay, and then come in here and let's smoothen this out. And then we'll take a remap and we'll make it a bit more rounded. So if I push this in, no, okay, that's not going to work. Don't do the smoothing. Okay, do a blur. So just take a blur in the middle, and then I can just, let's go to 0.2. So it'll be like, no, let's do 0.2 instead of 0.02. Okay, no. too much. Yeah, okay. Let's try this and then we'll squeeze it in. See, so it gives you like a nice rounded button on the whole thing. Yeah, that's not bad. So we can use this. And then this I can sort of put it on top of my button here. So let's just take this and yeah, let's take a multiply over here. Let's take another remap and just plug this in, plug that out. Let's see the result that we're getting. Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's like going all the way down. So let's take this and we're going to take the output minimum and increase it till it is just like a slight depression like that. And we also need to sort of adjust the size of this. So where's uniform scale? Yeah, there you go. And you can also like translate it a bit. Okay, so there you go. And so if we want, we can also like, maybe if you want to rotate it 90, we can do that. Or minus 90. Yeah, let's do 0. I think this is good. Okay, I think we can keep it slightly blurred for, like, let's put in another blur here just to, you know, because the edges are too sharp, right? So we'll just blur it a little bit. There you go. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, perfect. And then this remap can go in for coloring. Okay, so I can just take a remap here. It does get, you know, complicated really fast. So just take this and we will flip it. So just take this and that. Or you can take an invert, like even an invert is fine. Okay, it'll do the same thing. Means this will give me a little more control, but you just get a simple invert node as well. So you can just plug in like an invert node and that will also do the same thing, you know, so you can just pick whatever you want. So just take this and then I want to do the same thing, right? So just take the blend and we'll do Control C, Control V. And what you can do now is you can also just take a constant node. So just take a constant node and we'll set it to RGB. And let's plug that into second. And then this comes into mask. And it should give me, there you go. Okay, so we have a nice little button over there. So whatever color, this is like your button color or like the arrow color, you know, like whatever you want here, like we can take a green arrow, whatever. So there you go. So if we come out here and we have our button. Okay, so this is done. Now the thing is, I'm not going to go through all 4 because there are like too many of them. What I'll do is I'll just upload the file so you can just go through them. It's just variations of the same thing. Okay, now we can do one more thing, which is like, let's say if you want a font on top of this. Okay, so you have a font node in there, but let's say you have like, you've made some kind of a custom shape and you want to bring that in and use that as a, you know, as a texture. So let's say how would you do that? So let's do it from a font example, even though you do have a font in here, like I can type in a font and you get a font. But let's say instead of this arrow, I want like ABCD. But let's make the ABCD here. Okay, this is just for example. Okay, so I can take a font here and let's just call it A. And what I want to do is let's use agency. Yeah, okay, let's use this. Or what else can I use? Okay, that's not bad. Let's use this. So I can use this and then what I want to do is just take a null and we'll do like out text. Now what I want to do is I want to bring this text into the COP network and then use it as a texture. So what I can do is we'll type in geo. Okay, so sorry, we type in SOP. So we need to do a SOP import. Okay, so we do a SOP import and we bring in the font. Okay, so we bring in out text. Now we need to convert this into a texture. So the way to do that is just to rasterize. So you'll have something called rasterize geometry. And just plug in the geometry, and by default it takes the front view, but if you want, you can if you want it from top or something, then you have to bring in a camera. So just take this and there you go, it's brought in the text. And by default it brings in the alpha, which is exactly what you want, but you have like other things you can bring in position, you can bring in UVs, so you can do stuff like that. In our case we just want this, so it doesn't matter. Now I want to replace, let's say, like, you know, this stuff with the text that we have here. So what I can do is, let's do a remap, because all of this is flipped. I'll just flip this. Okay, so let's just do like 0 and 1 like that. So it'll just fit in everywhere, and we'll do like alt click in both these places. Yeah, and let's just plug in the A over here. And if you've done everything right, it should pretty much just work. So there you go, you have your text. Now what I can do is I can blur it a little because it's pretty sharp. So I can just right click here and I can take a blur and we can just blur it a bit. Yeah, there you go. So you can get, you know, A, B, C, D, whatever you want. So that's how you can sort of bring in, like if you made a custom shape or whatever, you know, like you've imported something and traced it and you want to, you know, apply that like some vector design that you might have done. So this is how, you know, you can do those things. Yeah, and now let's say if you want to scale it down, because you can't scale, like you can scale these, but what about scaling this stuff? So what you want to do is just right click here and take a transform. So you'll get something called transform 2D. Okay, and we'll just plug these in and you can just take this and, you know, like if I look at it from default, and you have the option to just scale it. So I can just take this and scale it down. And it'll try to tile it, but if you don't want it to tile, you can just come in here and say constant or just do clamp. There you go. So you can do clamp. Yeah. So if I come in here now, you'll have like a smaller text. So I can just take this and make it. So now you have all the options, right? So if you want to rotate it 90 degrees, you know, you can do stuff like that, or you want to sort of move it around a bit. And if you don't want to bring it in as like a displacement map and you just want it as text, like just as a texture, then we can bypass this stuff, right? Like if I just bypass this, then see, this is just, you know, a texture on top of it. We don't have it as, you know, embossed on it. So that is completely up to you, you know, like, so let's say like if you want something here, some kind of logo or a text over here, then we can just put a text there. It doesn't need to be, you know, anything else. So you have like plenty of options, like what you can do with it. Okay, so let's say like if as a final thing, let's say if I want some text there, and let's call it made in cops. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so we have like made in cops. Okay, and I just want it, you know, added on top of this. So let's put in like a transform 2D and plug that in, and I can just do an add here and plug that in over there. Hold on, we'll have to do like a mono to RGB. Yeah, plug that, and I can take this. There you go. Okay, and then we can just take this and I'll set this to wrap and then take this guy and move it down till we are here. There you go. And I can take the font value and maybe I can make it bigger, or let's try something better. Yeah, okay. And I can increase the font size. And like the texture size is kept from here. So if your default resolution is 1024, but let's say if you take it up to like, I'll take it up to 2K for now. And you know, that's pretty much it. So this is how you can do, you know, all of this stuff. That doesn't look very good. Let's make it black. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's just flip this. And I'll put like a multiply here. I think it will be slightly better in black. Yeah, okay. It still looks terrible, but, or, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. Okay, and like let's disconnect this and put this in the end over there. Yeah, so it's almost, actually, I mean, you can do a ton more with this stuff, but this is almost like what you can do with like Substance Designer. Even though I've never used it, but yeah, it feels very much like this. Okay, now as a final thing, let's say I want to take this into Karma and we'll render it over there. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll duplicate this guy. We'll do Control C, Control V. And I don't want it this high. So let's just make it like 10 by 10. And I'll do like out GO1. Okay, so this is what we want to export. And then we'll pick up the textures directly from here. Okay, so let's come into LOP network. And what I want to do is do a SOP import. And let's bring in out GO1. So there you go. And then I'll take a material. So we'll do like material library and Karma material builder. Okay, let's call it button material, and we'll do like assign, and let's do split top bottom. I'll set this to scene graph, and let's just assign this. Okay, so let's call this geo. So we have the mesh going in there and the material coming in here, and then we take a dome light, and I will pick up something. So where are you? Okay, let's pick up this one, and then I will take a karma and we'll set it to XPU, and that's good. So now let's set this up. Okay, so let me start off a render and then we'll set things up. So we'll do like karma XPU. Okay, I want to see the background. Why are you not showing me the background? Okay, for some reason. Okay, yeah, if you want to see the background, you have to do this. Yeah, come in here, come to karma, and then like do render light geometry and turn that on. There you go. Okay, so now let's bring in the textures. So we come in here, come to material library, and type in image. So you'll get material X image, and let's just plug this into base color, and just type in op / obj geometry 1 copnet1 out button color, and there you go, you have your texture. And then let's call this color map, and I will duplicate this, and let's make this float, and we want to bring in height, and this will be displacement, and that's it, done. So it's taking a second to compile, but yeah, we can take a multiply here. We can take like a multiply and like lower it if you want to, but yeah, let this render through, like let it compile, because it will remain slow till it doesn't compile. You know, see, like it's slowed down a fair bit. So I can just take this, and maybe you can lower how much you want. And then because it's in here, we can do, you know, the usual stuff. Like if I just take if I take a color correction, material X color correct, dump that in, it still takes time to compile things. So like every time you plug in a node, it will take time to compile. But you can just take this and, you know, you can adjust the hue, and it slows down. Okay, so the one final thing to remember is if you've created an animated texture and you want to bring in the animated texture, then all you have to do is just come in here to the end and put in like square bracket $F and square bracket. Okay, and that will bring in an animated texture. So just, you know, because like when you're bringing in animated textures from the hard drive, you do like a $F4 or things like that. That doesn't work here, so you have to do this. Okay, so that's like a final tip to remember. You don't need this right now, but yeah, there you go. So I can just take this to, oh, the displacement is making it slow. Okay, yeah, I disconnected the displacement. I was like wondering, why is it this slow? It's still slow, but yeah, the displacement makes it really slow. Yeah, so when you're changing, like, weird, but yeah, when you're changing these colors, yeah, it kind of dies. There you go. Okay, that's pretty much it. So this is how you can use SDF shapes to make, you know, stuff like this. Okay, I'll make more tutorials as we go along. Okay, bye.